Hey, Nerd Herd, Dynasty Nerd Share back again, helping you build that Dynasty Fantasy Football Championship. Some really good buys. This week, we're talking AFC buys. We got 6 players for you that we think hold really good value that can help your Dynasty team in about 9 months when that 22 season kicks off.
Yeah, I have a nice tight end value and some maybe wide receiver action.
I got the guy that I think is the number one buy for contending teams.
All of this and so much more in this fantastic Dynasty Nerds episode.
Ready, set, hut, hut.
Welcome to the Dynasty Nerds Fantasy Football Podcast, where we discuss Dynasty strategy, rankings, and all things NFL. So get ready to geek out on fantasy football with your host, Rich Dotson.
And welcome to the Dynasty Nerds Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Rich Dotson, and my fellow nerds, Matt O'Hara.
Hey.
And Garret Price.
How's it going?
It's going good for me, not so good for Jameson Williams.
Bummer, man, right?
I was so sad about that.
You're going to open up the show with that.
I know.
Heartbreak. Yeah, I like to get a heartbreak out of the way. You know what I mean? Like, get all the sad stuff out of the way so we just have a nice,
We just have
fun,
the
light
happiness.
show.
Just buy all the guys we like.
Guy I was, we just starting to dig in on. I was getting excited about after our little, way too early mock draft, and bam.
Gone.
So far, it was Jared's wide receiver 1.
Yeah.
Now, does that change anything for you, Jared, or is that going to stay the same because saw what I saw on tape?
I
I'm
mean,
good.
his tape from the year, so
Exactly.
my nerd score probably wouldn't change, but like my
What's your
ranking.
ranking?
Yeah, because you're probably not going to get that production at the beginning of the year, but
If he's anything like Cam Akers,
it's a
you
torn
will.
ACL, so I don't know, man.
Different injury,
I don't know.
but yeah.
Let me think on it.
Okay.
when it
We'll
gets
see.
here,
He's
but-
got like 7 months.
Plenty of time.
He's got
Yeah.
the bright side is he's got honestly until the first kickoff of the NFL game 9 months, so he's got time to probably make it back to training camp on a light schedule. So we'll shake a little bit things up. If anything, maybe you will find value in your 2022 rookie class. So now pick
there's a
7,
chance.
pick 8, pick 9. That's where the value be, because I wouldn't let an ACL. Like, I would still take now. I think for sure like Treylon Burks, Garrett Wilson there, just ahead of him, just because I'm gonna get that instant production. They don't have an ACL injury, but besides that, like, I'm not worried about it. You know, I'm not. If he didn't start playing until, Justin Jefferson didn't start playing really till week 3, his rookie year, and still finished as a high end wide
Odell
receiver 1.
Beckham Jr. was injured like half his rookie season.
And had to set records. That's all.
Yeah.
So no problems there. So today we're talking about not the Georgia Bulldogs. Congrats to them winning the college football national championship. We are talking some
Bama.
Dynasty fantasy football, and we're talking AFC buys. Guys that we like. We each got 2 players here that we're going to talk about that we like, that we think are good buys for your Dynasty team in Dynasty fantasy football. On the Nerd Herd Show, we will cover the NFC buys. And then next week, we're going to dive into some sells. We'll have 2 sells each. We'll go do NFC on this show, AFC on the Nerd Herd Show. And then a week after that, we'll, you'll find out next week. So stay tuned.
Probably start talking some Senior Bowl. And
Yeah.
all kinds of stuff.
Jared's going down there.
Yep.
He'll be at the Senior Bowl.
Can't wait.
I think we're all going to try and go down to the Combine.
Yep.
If we can make it. Before we get into that, though, I want to tell you guys about my friends real quick over at DynastyDepot.com. We haven't talked about them in a while because, the teams were sold. And last year we talked about Dynasty Depot a little bit too late, right? After we talked about them like starting into March, and by March, when March came along, a lot of those top end teams were already gone. But right now, you have the opportunity to get on the ground floor, run at DynastyDepot.com. And all you got to do is use that promo code NERDS, and what you're going to get is 70% off of their membership fee. So what is DynastyDepot.com? It's an opportunity for you to treat Dynasty like a stock market. You could buy and sell Dynasty teams on FFPC, the platform, which again, you can use the Dynasty GM. So if you buy 1,000 teams, you can put them into the Dynasty GM and manage all 1,000 teams. So whether you're a really good rebuilder of Dynasty teams or a really good drafter, you go to DynastyDepot.com. They open up on January 14th at 6 p.m. So I would get in there right away and look at those teams and see which ones are the best value. You might be able to join a $1,000, $1,200 FFPC league for the little as $100. You might be able to buy a team for, it's a $1,000 entry for $2,000, but that team is a pretty good chance to win the championship. Or you could just draft a team on FFPC and then put it right on the Dynasty Depot and flip it right away for profit. All these things are capable at DynastyDepot.com. Use that promo code NERDS to get in for $14.99 for the year membership. And I encourage everybody, go to DynastyDepot.com first. Look at the teams that are going to be available before you even pay. You don't have to pay to look at the teams. Check it out. See what you could do. It gives you an opportunity from here to the start of the season to buy and sell Dynasty teams, and it's on FFPC, which has never had a Dynasty League fold since its existence. Check them out, dynastydepot.com. We'll be talking about them from here for a very long time. Going forward here, promoting our friends over at dynastydepot.com and Nelson, good friend of ours. So check them out, dynastydepot.com, promo code NERDS. Now, let's get into some Dynasty buys, right? So here we are kicking off the offseason. NFL playoffs are about to start. Dynasty season's upon us. We'll start diving into rookies once the combine hits, because we like to have all the combine stats as we break down these rookies as well. We'll start watching tape way before that, probably do another mock draft. But in the meantime, there's a lot of work to be done before your draft. That's making trades for draft picks. That's selling, rebuilding, reloading. Don't be stuck in the middle in your Dynasty League. Remember, you can't be stuck in the middle. If you stay stagnant, when you're stagnant, you're just going to get passed by. It's the worst place to be. Either blow that bad boy up and reload, or go all in and get that championship. You never know. You just got to get in the playoffs, and you never know, because a 6 seed will beat a 1 seed. If some guys got COVID and they're sick, you never know. So we got a couple buys here. I'll go first. My first guy on the list is a guy I've talked about many times on this podcast, but since we're going to kick off the year with a buy, I just got to refresh. Maybe we got some new listeners out there, some new watchers on the YouTube channel. Yeah, I know. I'm ugly. No need to tell me about it. J.K. Dobbins. So I have bought him. Ooh. I bought him everywhere. You know what I mean? I'm getting him everywhere I can. I inquired about him in another league today. The guy said he's off limits. So I'm like, okay, buddy, not a big deal. But why do I love J.K. Dobbins so much? Let me get into it. So let's start with just this 2021 season where he did not play because he tore his ACL before the season started. So Devontae Freeman didn't really even become the guy until week 9. From week 9 was the first time he ever got over 10 carries. Before that, like week 2, we got 2 carries. Week 3, 3. Week 4, 4. Week 5, 1. Week 6, 9. Week 7, 4. So not much. Right. But from week 9 on, he got at least 10 carries. Now, in weeks 15, he only got 6. Week 16, he only got 6. Week 18, he only got 5. And he only had a total of 6 touchdowns. Where do you guys think Devontae Freeman finished from week 9 on? So from week 9 to 18 in fantasy football and PPR leagues. Where would you guess?
9 to what? What week? Sorry,
9 to the end.
9 to the end.
Yeah. So
second half of the season.
Second half of the season, PPR leagues, Devontae Freeman. And those stats I just gave you.
20. I was gonna say 23.
Running back 18.
Okay. All right.
So smack in the middle, running back 2. Now, we can all admit, Devontae Freeman's not fresh legs out there. He's not anywhere to go.
He's like 5 years from fresh legs.
So we saw that if you throw an old guy into this offense, who has a very little, has capabilities of pass catching, he can finish as a running back 2, as running back 18. And this is a team that we know in Baltimore, they love to run the football. Nobody honestly loves to run the football more. This year, they were 3rd in rushes in the league. Right behind Philadelphia and Tennessee were tied for first. They averaged 32.4 carries per game. Baltimore averaged 30.4. But in 2020, Baltimore, first in the league in rushes with 34.6 per game. 2019, first in the league in rushes, 36.8. 2018, first in the league in rushes with 33.5. 2017, 7th in the league with 28.8. So this is a team that loves to run the football. So we say this all the time. Even with Devontae Freeman, a lot of these runners, just usage is the key, right? Mm-hmm. Use them. They get you fantasy points. It produces. So if I can get a running back that's going to go to the number 1 rushing team in the league, then I'm extremely intrigued right off the get-go. J.K. Dobbins. What does J.K. Dobbins get you? 5'9", 209 yards. And if you don't remember, his last year at Ohio State, 301 rushes, 2,003 yards rushing, 21 touchdowns, good for 6.7 yards per carry, 23 receptions, 247 yards receiving, and 2 touchdowns. This is a kid that never ran for under 1,000 yards his 3 years at Ohio State. He can catch the ball well, had a total of 71 receptions at Ohio State. And Ravens running backs last year had a total of 61 receptions. So there's opportunity there for him in the passing game as well. Say if he's a main 3-down running back in that offense, which right now there's no incumbent really. Like you're not worried about Devontae Freeman coming in there. And
it would be Gus Edwards because Gus Edwards also had the injury.
Also got
he
hurt.
would be the one that would come back.
Gus Edwards coming back. Gus Edwards is again a good player, but doesn't overly worry me in passing game. Doesn't overly worry about Dobbins' talent at all. And this is a guy who, in college he faced 8 top 25 run defenses in college and still got it done. 13-11 versus those defenses, average over 6 yards per carry. A guy who can cut at full speed on a dime, looks like he's in the Matrix. He's a 3-down threat.
By the way, that new Matrix movie is terrible.
It's terrible.
I have not seen it.
It is terrible.
It was brutal. It was
vision, processes
gonna say
information quickly, excellent in the short game area, can cut on a dime. This is a guy who goes north, south, east to west in a heartbeat. Good receiver, really good in space. I
hope he doesn't go south too much, personally.
I hope not either. But a runner that I just loved coming out of college. I mean, it was him and DeAndre Swift. We had his 1-2 before the whole draft shakeup where JT jumped him, and then Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Yeah, forget about that
So,
one.
to me, right now,
still time on that one, all right? There's still time.
J.K. Dobbins is not
Gonna have to have some good seasons.
good seasons. But he's not a running back that's going to come cheap, right? Like, this isn't a buy like, ooh, this is a buy low. But he can be had. And I know because I've been buying him throughout the whole season. Now,
What have you been paying? Because I had a deal available to me. I ended up not going through with it, but I'm not sure how I feel about it. So I'm curious as to what you paid.
I'd have to go back and look. I literally got him in 3 different leagues.
Just like roughly.
One league was I gave up Saquon, OBJ, Pat Freiermuth, and I got back, this is way before he even blew up, Deebo Samuel and J.K. Dobbins.
Ooh.
Guy was making a title
That worked
push.
out.
Yeah, he was making a title push. It worked out really well.
Yeah.
And I got 23 first. I don't want to mention it as well. There's another league I traded for him in, and I can't remember.
I
I think
some in the trade browser.
it was same thing. It was I gave a running back that was playing playoff push for what do you got in the trade browser for us?
Superflex League, Baker Mayfield for JK and 2 seconds in 2022.
Okay.
I would do that.
Justin Jackson and a 2022 first for JK.
Oh, that's cheap.
That's real cheap, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
gross.
A 23 first for JK and Amon-Ra St. Brown. And these are all within the last 4 days.
Seriously? Okay, so here was the deal that I was going back and forth with that I almost pulled the trigger on last second, decided not to because it was just too rich and I wasn't quite sure my team was good enough to acquire that kind of piece because he's still a running back as much as I love him. It was 2 23 firsts to get J.K. Dobbins. And it was really, like, I almost pulled the trigger at the last thing. I was
Late
like,
first?
there would probably be mid.
Okay.
I'm seeing a lot of like 23 first just for JK.
Just one.
I offered a guy today.
I would do one all day.
I offered a guy
Me too.
today. I was like, hey, I'll give you a 23 first, 2 23 seconds, one of them his back, which I expect to be mid to low. And I was like, and a little something else on top for JK. Just want to let you know. I just want to see if that like tickles your fancy. And he's
Right.
like, no, I'm good.
And that's the thing. Like I think there's a huge range of outcomes here for his trade value just based on leagues. You could be just giving up 1 first, you could be giving up 2 first, and it's kind of iffy, or it could be like serious heat, and the guy just doesn't even look at it. So I think he's a very polarizing player. I got him earlier in the year, right when he got injured, and it was in a super flex league, and the guy was super happy. I got him for 1 first, and the guy was just happy to get a first back for him at that point. So
I'm assuming he was probably a contender and needed a running back or something like that.
he definitely was, but it's just one of those things where, or it might have been Chris Carson in a first. I think it was Chris Carson in a first, and I was
Okay,
fine
so-
with that as well.
yeah.
So gave him nothing in the first.
Yeah.
Because you were probably a rebuild team.
I was.
Yeah.
At the time, I ended up competing and getting into the playoffs and kind of giving up
Doing
on my
doing better than you thought.
Yeah. But anyway,
I did it in a league and won it.
Did you really? Like accidentally made the playoffs and ended up winning it all?
Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but it was like
yes, you did.
It was like week 4 or 5, and I lost like 4 in a row. And I was like, you know what? Forget this trade team. I got blowed up. I thought I was a contender. I wasn't. I traded away like DeAndre Hopkins, something else. Got some good players back. I had a Najee. Ended up making the playoffs. Ended up winning the whole league.
That's fine.
After I announced I was blowing it up, but sorry.
No, I mean, I guess the whole point of what I was saying is if you're in, this goes for any one of the buys today. If you're in one of these leagues where you're getting them at the low end value that we're talking about, like 1 first, you should be slamming the accept button on a trade like that. And some of the other things you're going to have to think through and, put them in the trade calculator, put them in those kind of things to see if it works out better for your team. But if it's on the low end on any of the guys we're talking about, slam the accept button right away.
I'm willing to pay market value for him. Like whatever people think is like the high. Like I said, I offered the 223 seconds and the first, and I was like, hey, I'll give you a little something on top too. I mean, it's like a dispersal draft going on. I'm like, you can go in there and take whoever you want. Kenny Galladay. Whoever you want. That's how much I believe in Dobbins. Right. I think Dobbins has a potential to finish as a mid-range to high-end running back one. If he gets the touchdowns, he's involved in that passing game. Say he catches, 70% of those 61 passes, come away with like 40 catches for 350 yards, and he rushes for another 1,200 and gets about 7 touchdowns, maybe 2 in the passing game. We're talking about a mid-range to high-end running back one that he offers that potential.
So let me ask you this with the market value conversation going on. What is market value for him? Because you threw the term out. I'll pay market value for him. What in your eyes is market value?
I would have no pay. I would prefer, definitely if I'm a contender, right? Because I hate buying even running backs if I'm not a contender whatsoever. I would be happy to pay 2 firsts. I'd be happy to give up my 22 first, and say my 22 first is pick 10. And my 23 first, figuring that J.J. Dobbins would be a difference maker, and I have like 23-11, 23-12. So to me, 2 late first, no matter how good the draft class is, over a very young running back one, like that's all day. Because at any point, if my team, I think the kind of season I predict Dobbins to have, which is what I just mentioned, I think that's like the average potential. It could do even better, maybe hit the 1,400 yards. Probably not, but you never know.
Well, it's definitely possible.
Definitely all purpose. To me, if anything falls out from under me in this league, I'll be able to ship Dobbins for equal value if he's putting up those numbers easily, if not even a little bit more on top. Maybe those 2 firsts plus a little something on top. Maybe there'll be another injured player if he produces. It's always risky buying running backs. I understand that too, but we saw this year. It's not this year. It's every single year. There's a need for running backs.
Well, I think we've also gotten to the point where we've almost, not quite, but we've almost started valuing the PPR points too much. Like this year is a great example. Nick Chubb missed 3 games. He only played 14 games. And in PPR, he still finished as running back 13 overall in the season. And we know that he was splitting time in the beginning of the year with Kareem Hunt. Ernest Johnson took some late. And he still finished as RB13. We've seen Derrick Henry for multiple seasons now not get a ton of passing volume, but still be very effective. Yes, I think J.K. Dobbins will be on the lower end of the spectrum when it comes to the passing volume. I think, 40-45 would be awesome, but I think it could be as low as 30-35 as well catches. But even there, I think we're still talking about a guy that is going to be an RB1 next season and probably for the next 2 or 3 seasons.
Yeah, and that holds its weight in gold, especially in Dynasty. So that's what I'm going to pay. That's my high-end version of what I'd pay. I prefer not to pay that because I think you can get less. I think more fair. And it all depends. I think now's a good time as we get closer and closer, as he gets healthier and healthier, obviously that price will go up. But I think another prime time to buy J.K. Dobbins, if you can't buy him today, would be during your rookie draft, right? Yeah. Where people are getting really excited about these players. That's where I think the peak value where you're able to get the most for that 2022 first and not dip into that 23 first value, because then, say you have pick 1-5, 1-6, and you're like, people are in love with Jameson Williams or people are in love with Treylon Burks, and they're there and like, man, what do you want for this pick? And I'm looking at that J.K. Dobbins owner. I'm like, dude, give me J.K. Dobbins. I'm like, oh, I can't do that. But I'll give you my 23 second too. So I'm giving you 1-5 in my 23 second. And there's a chance J.K. Dobbins could finish better than every single person in that 22 class.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. I know you guys haven't watched a ton of Breece Hall, Isaiah Spiller, the bigger names in the class. But Jared, I know you've watched a decent amount so far. Today, would you, or let's say it gets to draft day, you have the 101, and let's say it's Breece Hall at the time. That is pretty much the consensus 101. Would you trade Breece Hall straight up for J.K. Dobbins, or would you rather have Breece Hall?
I'd have to see what team he goes to for sure, and where he gets drafted. But that's really tough. I think I'd take Breece Hall.
Would you?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, that's fair.
Interesting.
And I wouldn't expect anybody to give up 1-1 for J.K. Dobbins.
I would. I'd give up 1-1 straight up.
I would give up 1-1 straight up as well too. Yep. But again, I like what Jared said too though. Where does he go?
Right. We have time to decide that.
But here's a counterpoint to that though. Where does he go? There's not a whole lot. We got so excited about JT going to the Colts with the offensive line and running it. I mentioned this before. No team runs the football any more than the Baltimore Ravens. So, like, what other running back, what other situation could be better than where J.K. Dobbins is?
I think only
Lamar's
one
took a step back this year.
The only one that would make whoever the top running back is, Spiller, Brees, whatever, the only one that would make me pause slightly is Buffalo. If one of those guys went to Buffalo with Josh Allen and how much they need a running back, that would be the one team, especially if it was first-round draft capital.
See, my only counterpoint to that is like short yardage. Like Josh Allen gets a ton of carries. He gets a ton of carries in the red zone.
I don't know that they want him to, though. I think long-term they would rather their running back do that.
And I think the same thing with Lamar Jackson. Him getting banged up. I know it was JOK that twisted ankle this year, but like he's going into this is it. He's in his fifth year option this year. So if they don't resign him this offseason, which I probably expect them to do, even both cases, if they don't or if they do, they got to protect the asset. They're going to have to roll back a little bit on Lamar Jackson and make him progress a little bit as a passer because he has not progressed. He has to take a step back from rushing and take a step forward in passing.
Right.
Which you said regress in rushing or regress in passing.
Yeah. So they're going to have to get that. Like in certain situations, the running back's going to get a little bit more involved. And I think J.K. Dobbins is going to make that transition a little bit easier. So again, one of my favorite buys in this offseason. Where's the price tag? I'm sure it's all over the place. But what I'm saying is get involved.
If you can get them at price or below price, which your market value is around 2 first-round draft picks, go make that trade. Is what you're saying, right?
Yeah,
I mean that's
100%.
And if it's above that, you're probably overpaying a little bit. So just try to get it at or below that.
A January 2022 way too early prediction for 9 months, not even 11, 12 months from now is like I think J.K. Dobbins will finish as a top 7. Top 6 fantasy football running back in the 2022-2023 season. So Matt,
I would take JK then over Brees if that's the case.
I'm in.
I'm just a firm believer, and that's why I bought everywhere. And again, the price range has been so varied. One I got over in a guy pretty good at the end because again I made that trade right when.
Was that like week 3, 4, 5? Or?
No, it was like later. It was like right after Pat Freiermuth had his second big game in a row because I traded Pat Freiermuth too. That was it. He originally
gave up on Debo that quick.
He originally declined the trade, but he had no tight end, and he wanted to make this championship push. He ended up, I got his 22 first. He ended up getting eliminated first round, so it helps me. But like he just wanted to make this push, and his running back went down. He had no other running back. Something happened to his receiver was down. He needed another receiver, and I was like, he wanted Saquon. And Saquon was like, dude, he's pricey.
Yeah,
selling him, and he offered me Debo, and then he offered me J.K. Dobbins in his first.
And those are the pressure points that make great trades happen for people.
Freiermuth was the deal breaker. So
yep.
All right, Matt, hit us.
All right, I'm going to go a slightly lower profile type of guy, but I think
less exciting.
I think he could have a similar, I guess not similar impact, but he could have an impact and make a name for himself here in this coming offseason. So I'm going Donald Parham, tight end of the
LA Chargers.
I was going to say San
Diego
because I'm old.
End of his year on a scary note.
Yeah, obviously, the concussion at the end of the year was a pretty scary one. Just kind of dove into the end zone and cracked his head on the ground on the way. No contact from a defender or anything, and went all rigid and everything. But he's a guy that I think flashed enough in his short period there. He's a guy that. He didn't have a starting gig. Obviously, that's Jared Cook, 34-year-old Jared Cook, who's in the last year of his deal there with the Chargers. So Donald Parham always interests me. 6'8", a former basketball player in high school, played 1 year of high school football before he went off to college, and it was a small school, Stetson University. So he had to kind of take an unconventional route. I think he went XFL for a year as well, and he's got, 6'8", 240 pounds. At 6'8", he doesn't look like a tight end at 240 pounds. This guy looks like a wide receiver. Yeah, he's very lean. And what I love about the guy is you can't teach this kind of size and separation. So it's at 6'8", he has the stats. He has actually better separation now than Jared Cook did last year. He gets over 2 yards, around 2 yards of separation per route run, where Jared Cook is down at like 1.72. And Jared Cook last year was targeted 83 times. So if Jared Cook leaves, this is going to be a huge opportunity for a guy like Donald Parham, because not only is Jared Cook leaving with his 83 targets, Mike Williams is a free agent, all 129 of his targets. Jalen Guyton with 58 targets is also a free agent. They basically have Keenan Allen on the books for next year. They have Donald Parham, and they have Josh Palmer as far as wide receivers or receivers coming back next year.
Sure.
So there's a huge opportunity for whomever is left there to gobble up a lot of these targets. And Donald Parham, I think, is an easy slam dunk type of guy. He's a ERFA, so he's an exclusive rights free agent, which means he can't negotiate with any other team. It's going to be LA or basically no one. So I expect him to re-sign there in LA. And I think he's a guy that has shown enough in the red zone and out in the middle of the field that he can be a factor there if he is the guy. So it's going to be a leap of faith, but the great news is you're not having to give up a lot. Right now in our trade finder, he's going for a third. He's going for a fourth. I think it was Jonnu Smith before his injury. He was going for players like Jonnu Smith. So very, very, very cheap kind of option for a guy that could potentially land himself at a starting tight end with Justin Herbert as his quarterback. Sure. And there's a ton of trust there between the guys already growing. He's already had the year in the system here. And I just love the opportunity that free agency could possibly give him.
Yeah, I love those buys where there's a transition coming, right? You mentioned 34-year-old Jared Cook leaving, and you said 83 targets. It kind of blew me away a little bit that even he saw that many targets. And I don't know how many Parham had. Do you know how many Parham had?
Yeah, Parham only had 27, and he caught 20 of them. So he had a better catch rate even than Jared Cook. Across the board, his stats are very comparable, if not a little bit better than Jared Cook's, and he's 6'8".
But everything you wish Leonard Pope would have been. But this is something that, say you take half of that, because obviously be another tight end there too. He sees 95 targets and he catches the same catch rate. He catches 75 footballs. 75 footballs for a tight end is unbelievable.
Yeah.
So to me, getting that opportunity, tied with the quarterback, Guyton is probably going to leave. Josh Palmer step in that role as the number 2, the number 3 if they don't.
If Mike Williams sticks
around. I don't think if Mike Williams somehow didn't stick around, I still think they'd bring somebody else in regardless.
Sure. There's a lot of decent free agent wide receivers.
I saw a lot from Josh Palmer. I'm a fan. I think he's a good dynasty buy low as well, to be honest with you. But at tight end position, everybody needs a good backup tight end. Everybody needs half the league people need a starting tight end. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I like the Donald Parham pick. I think it's a solid dynasty buy right now to help. Helps any dynasty team. And the big thing here is what does it cost? We mentioned J.K. Dobbins. Right. It's going to cost you. I love the guys that are costing you third-round picks because right around now till about April, third-round picks have some pretty solid value when it comes to their name. When in reality, they're pretty much like the crumbs on the bottom of potato chips. You know what I mean? It's you're shaking them in there, but they're not offering all that flavor. Come on, I can do better than this. Go pay 99 cents to get another bag. What are you doing?
Finger trying to get them all to stick to your finger.
Oh. Yeah, now you look like you're a 5-year-old. Yep. He just pick his nose now he's eating chips.
He's eating chips.
Are those Cool Ranch or Cool Chili Ranch? Well, those look good. So that's what he offers. I like the value there. I got my second guy, same thing, real cheap because. Again, we talk about this as well. It's not always about the big moves you make. It's not always targeting these big moves. It's targeting guys in Dynasty like Donald Parham that you make these moves in January, February. Then it slips your mind about the whole trade value because by come September, November, you don't even remember this trade.
Right.
You're oh, Donald Parham's been my team forever. You know what I mean? I've always had him. And all of a sudden he started. Now he's seeing those targets, and you're winning championships for a move that you made because you listened to the Dynasty Nerd podcast back in January. I like the trade.
What I would do with that, because overall I'm a fan of that as well, but I'm going to hedge my bets with that. I'm going to also try to make sure I get Trey McKitty as well. They took him in the third round last year, and he flashed at the end of the season, started getting more targets, more catches at the end of the season. So in a perfect world, I would like to have them both, just in case one of them starts to emerge over the other. Dalton Schultz, Blake Jarwin kind of thing.
Good call, yeah.
So I would like to hedge my bets there, but I'm all in on the tight end for whoever the tight end is for the Chargers. I'm all in on that player.
Yeah, awesome. I forgot all about Trey McKitty getting selected in the third round. He did show a little bit something there at the end which is crazy because him coming out wasn't like a flashy, athletic tight end that caught a lot of football. So, but he looked better than the year that he did on tape, like coming out of college.
I think
Senior Bowl, he popped.
I was gonna say I think McKitty was fairly athletic, but it wasn't a lot of
He
opportunities.
played at Georgia.
Yeah, exactly.
He got like 6 catches.
Yeah, but now
while
they
he was
got Brock Bowers, and the guy could go play tight end right away. He had a
Yeah.
big touchdown. That dude
That was
looks like
wild.
a stud muffin.
Yeah,
Is he a freshman?
He's a true freshman.
He's 18 years old to play in the NFL. I mean, dude, you know how much I love talking tight ends? When that dude comes out in 3 years, I'm going to be going from 6 to midnight. You're like, look at this guy, Brock Bowers, double B.
Keep that trench coat closed.
Yeah. Don't worry, I don't have a mustache.
No mustache.
Yep, no Oscar Mayer showing for
Creepy
you.
smile though.
Very creepy.
All right. Let's talk about the guy that I am buying. And this is another one that I have bought in off seasons prior to this. And it only is continuing to make more and more sense to buy this player. I am buying Brandon Cooks of the Houston Texans. Brandon Cooks this season, it was a little bit of an up and down year at times. But the dude finished as wide receiver 20 this year. I mean, he was a mid-range wide receiver, mid to low-range wide receiver 2 on the season. You need those kind of players.
There was a time early on in the season where he was a wide receiver 1, and people were calling him quarterback proof because he was still doing it with the turds that they were rolling out at the beginning of the year.
You know, finished the season as wide receiver 1.
Huh.
Wide receiver 12 overall because the last game, Mike Williams.
Yeah.
Right behind, Keenan.
Nice.
There we go.
Sorry, go ahead.
But talking about quarterback proof, it's interesting you mentioned that because I looked into the games where he specifically played with Mills because I think Mills has shown enough that I believe he's probably going to start the season as their quarterback. Now, they're in the top 5 with their selections. They could easily pivot and say, we want one of these top quarterbacks.
And they're also teetering on the fence with the coach. Right.
We
didn't talk about that.
Well, we saw one teeter today, and the teater went pretty hard down on Titus, and he was gone. So, but you got to imagine too, if they trade Watson, there's a strong. Let's say they trade him to New York, and they'd probably get Daniel Jones back. If they trade him to Philadelphia, they would get Jalen Hurts back.
Right, but the thought was
if he stays, if they stay put, he's shown enough. Go ahead.
He's shown enough.
That's where you're at.
If it's anything else, it's probably an upgrade. At least in theory, it should be an upgrade over Davis Mills. But I think he's shown quite a bit this year.
Agree.
But in just the games that he had with Davis Mills, he averaged 9 targets, 6.5 receptions, a little over 69 yards a game, and he had 5 touchdowns. I see you smiling over there. And he had 5 touchdowns. Extrapolate that over a 17-game pace, that would be 156 targets, 110 receptions, 1,175 yards, and 8 touchdowns, which this season would have been good for wide receiver 9, ahead of guys like DK Metcalf, ahead of Mike Williams, ahead of a lot of really talented players we like. So
don't you forget, Mike Williams was on pace for 17,000 yards, 1,400 touchdowns, and then he hurt his knee against Cleveland and wasn't the same.
And then it didn't. The rest of the stats don't count. Then
Still finishes wide receiver 12 on the year though.
Still happened.
It happened.
Woo!
So I'm a really big fan of Brandon Cooks. He is going into his age 29 season, which is why he's a guy that you could acquire. Because if he's going into his age 25, 26 season, you're not getting him. He's going early in drafts, or people aren't going to want to trade you him. But you can get him. But he's felt like a guy you've been able to get like every offseason. Like he's always just been available and then just always finishes as one of the top wide receivers. In fact, other than his 2019 year.
I'll say he's been good every year but one.
And the 1 year was the concussion season. Remember, he had like 2 or 3 concussions in the same year. We were worried about, can he even continue to play football? But outside of that season, starting with 2021, working down, wide receiver 20, 17, 13, 15, 10, 13. So, I mean, he has been a wide receiver 2 or a low end wide receiver 1 every single season that he's been healthy.
His production drastically outweighs the cost. You know what I mean? Like he's the old school Brian Hartline. We talked about that. Like you used to be able to get Brian Hartline used to consistently give you wide receiver 3, wide receiver 2 numbers for like 7 years, and you used to be able to get bought for like a 3rd round pick every single year. There's always those wide receivers out there people just don't respect. And I know you're talking about that age frame, but a ton of receivers like. You go look at these receivers' age. The good thing with this huge influx of young guys, because all these well-known guys that we love, Devontae Adams, Odell Beckham, Brandon Cooks, Mike Evans, DeAndre Hopkins, even guys like Kenny Galladay, Michael Thomas, they're all entering that 29, 30 years old season. So now these players are playing a little bit longer. So there's value to be had there, but a guy like Brandon Cooks always outweighs his value. So if you can get Brandon Cooks for maybe a guy you just don't love, maybe you give somebody a good handcuff in a second round pick. Like if I can get Brandon Cooks for a second, honestly, I would pay 2 seconds for Brandon Cooks if I'm a contender, because I want that value. I want that wide receiver 2 value. Yes, the wide receiver pool is just getting deeper and deeper every single year, and I expect guys to take a big step forward. We'll see how Michael Thomas does when he comes back next year, but a guy like that you can slide, it's going to give you wide receiver 2 numbers that you could pay wide receiver 3 cost for and slide him into your wide receiver 3 role. That's a difference maker. That's a championship caliber player that can help you win what we all play for. And that's a Dynasty Fantasy Football Championship. So I love the value there to be had.
Well, and it's easily paying wide receiver 3 costs, because I was looked at a bunch of startup drafts, people that are doing drafts right now, and I got 6 of them that were at least far enough to be where he was being taken. All of these also had rookie picks involved. So we know that there's 4 to 5 to 6 wide receiver rookies that are being taken ahead of him as well. But the average was right around wide receiver 37. So you add in those 4 to 6 rookie wide receiver picks that are being taken ahead of him, we're talking in the 40s where he is being selected at wide receiver. So he is absolutely a great value. The best one was wide receiver 32. That was the highest out of all of them. The lowest was wide receiver 44.
So we've talked value about the previous 2 guys. Right now in our trade finder, he's going for a second or a second and a third. Does that speak to you guys as great value?
As a contender.
It does. Yeah, it does.
It's a late second.
Yep.
In a not so deep class as it stands right now. So if I'm giving up a late second in 2022 and giving up a 23 third, again, the third will never move the needle for me. It's always something I'm happy to throw in to get a deal done. So to me, if I'm giving up a second and a third for a guy that's helping me win a championship, dude, if I had 3 good receivers and I could get that depth, because
for sure.
Again, look at how many people lost this year because of the depth, right? I did. I was the number 1 seed in 2 leagues. 2 leagues. I was the number 1 seed with a first round bye. In my first game back, my receivers were on bye in both these leagues. I was eliminated right away because I didn't have
COVID,
enough.
injuries.
It was all COVID-related guys. So to me, I didn't have the depth. So the more depth I can acquire at good pricing, at good value, is what I want to do. Because sometimes people play Dynasty like, well, I got 3 guys. I don't need Brandon Cooks. Yeah, you do. Yeah, you have bye weeks. You have injuries. Like, you have COVID out there. Like, you need as much depth. And we talked about this before the season started. We talked about this a lot. But, like, hey, make sure you're getting guys that might, guys like Brandon Cooks, guys like Donald Parham. Like, just because you have a good team, you want to keep adding. Like,
yes.
This is Dynasty. There's no stopping the roster mold. Like, you have this mold of clay that you're just constantly trying, like you're in a movie Ghost, just mold into this Dynasty.
In the movie what?
Ghost.
Oh, Ghost.
Yeah, come on. Pay some respect to Patrick Swayze, Curtis Ferguson.
Yeah.
I don't think I've seen that.
I've seen it.
Patrick Swayze,
children.
To me more.
Yeah. So you're trying to mold this thing into clay, right? Like into a fantasy football championship trophy. But when you get that top and you want to put the hand in the bowl to make it a bowl trophy, sometimes it's going to flop and drop down. Unless you got a good base.
You got to have a good base. You got to have a good base.
Easy with those hand motions. Yeah. Jeez.
Also, this analogy is going over like 50% of the people's heads.
A lot of your hands are below the table and they keep coming up.
Well, that's why I watch a YouTube channel. Like, I'm just molding it up here, trying to build me a fantasy football championship trophy. So you want that depth. I like doing it. When I'm a contender, those are the guys I'm like, hey, I can't
even remember who we're talking about.
How do I build around this? His name's
Brandon Cooks.
Brandon Cooks. So
Archer.
Hey, I like it. I love it. I want some more of it. I mean,
there we go.
Not going in this year, but we were talking about Robert Woods this way 3 years ago.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like 3 years ago. These players exist. They always exist. There's a running back we're going to talk about here. Like, I want to talk about Melvin Gordon this show, right? Like, but I am skipping on Melvin Gordon because we talk about him every single year. But Melvin Gordon's still on this list. Melvin Gordon has been on this list for 3 years now, and he's been producing all 3 years. He shared carries with Javonte Williams, still finished as a running back 2 in a year, going to go in the offseason, going to sign somewhere, and guess what he's probably going to do if he stays healthy? Finish as a running back 2. You're going to get Melvin Gordon for those bottom-of-the-bag chips that get the little flavor on your fingers so you're walking around. Little frisky fingers, you.
All right, let's talk about PredictionStrike.com. We talk about them every week. They're great every week.
So great.
And these buys, they once again, so many things that we do here. funnel right into Prediction Strike. You can
That's
go
why
on
they
their
keep
website.
advertising with us because everybody's making so much money over there. Like, dude, here, Dynasty Nerds, here's $5.
Yes, exactly. So head over to PredictionStrike.com. Use the promo code Dynasty. Doesn't matter if you do it on the website. Doesn't matter if you do it on the app, in the App Store. Use the promo code Dynasty and receive a free share of any player you want. Doesn't even have to be a football player. I mean, we tend to pick football players because that's what we know best. But if you want to do some NBA action, some MLB action, whatever you want to do, you can do that over at PredictionStrike.com. Get a free player, get a free share of any player you want with your first deposit of $20 or more.
Use that free share in J.K. Dobbins, and you're going to be so happy.
Dobbins is $5.22.
What-
Give me somebody to compare him to.
Give me what is Alvin Kamara?
Kamara is $8.48.
Boom! You want to make $3? I bet.
Yes, I'm in.
That's
There's
for sure.
somebody climbing through the phone right now.
Bold prediction: J.K. Dobbins outscores Alvin Kamara next year.
Ooh.
Yeah. $3. Hey, if you buy 1,000 shares, now that's $5,000. You'll make $3,000. Now, if you buy 100 shares,
minus fees.
yeah, well, yeah, you always
That's what
replant
it is.
trees. So,
Sorry.
all right, let's move on, shall we?
Let's do it.
Let's talk about my next spy. Now, this is a guy that's close to my heart.
Hold on.
What?
Derrick Henry is $31.
Oh, wow.
Holy
31
shish
doll
kebabs.
hairs?
I guess why is Alvin Kamara at such a discount then?
I don't know.
Wait,
It's the market,
Holy
man.
cow.
How much is he?
Market. $31 a share.
Derrick Henry?
Yeah, Nick Chubb is $6.
How much is Jonathan Taylor?
Jonathan Taylor.
I would sell Derrick Henry all day at that. Oh, my gosh.
Wow.
That is outrageous.
a lot of money.
$11.
But Derrick Henry's 31?
He's
Yeah.
3 times?
I don't know. Yeah.
I don't own the site. Check that out. See, you could be making money.
Hey, find the loopholes. Make money.
Arbitrage.
It's where it is. All right, my next guy here is D'Ernest Johnson. Kind of falls near Donald Parham. I don't have anything on Trade Finder. If you can lead up for me while I'm talking, Jared. This is a guy that, again, free, right? 3rd round pick you're getting D'Ernest Johnson for is what I'm guessing, right around there. And what interests me about D'Ernest Johnson, he's 25, turns 26 in February, is what he did this year. What did he do? He didn't do a whole lot, but he had opportunities to play. There was only 3 times on the year where he got over 10 carries, and I deleted one. Oh, it was Cincinnati. Okay, I deleted one, but I got my notes here. Anyways, I'm not
There you
taking
go.
notes. So D'Ernest Johnson, in his 3
Did
opportunities,
that go over your head? A notebook?
in his 3 opportunities, one was they got over 10 carries, only 3 times. Now, D'Ernest Johnson is very valuable in the passing game. No trades. Okay. He's valuable in the passing game and behind the tackles. This is a guy who had good vision this year, showed some very solid patience behind the line as well. Good jump cut ability. So D'Ernest Johnson, to me, when given the opportunity, looked like a professional NFL running back given opportunities. Now, there's only 3 games where he got over 10 carries this year. First one, week 7 versus Denver, 22 carries, 146 yards, and a touchdown, 2 catches, 22 yards. Finished that week as running back 4. Second opportunity, week 10 versus New England, 19 carries, 99 yards, 7 receptions for 58 yards. Finished the week as running back 6. Last opportunity this past week versus Cincinnati, and yes, I know Cincinnati's practice squad, blah, 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 still NFL players. I don't give a rat's behind. Finished the week, 25 carries, 123 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 catch, 1 reception, 1 yard, running back 9. All 3 times that he was given over 10 carries, he was a top 9 fantasy football running back. Running back 4, running back 6, running back 9, by just giving the opportunity. Now, he's a free agent this year. They got Kareem Hunt. They got Nick Chubb. They're not going to re-sign D'Ernest Johnson. It's just not going to happen. There's not money. The Browns got to pay Denzel Ward. They got to sign some more free agents. They got to try and re-sign Jadeveon Clowney. So D'Ernest Johnson's going to go somewhere. Now, maybe D'Ernest Johnson doesn't go somewhere to be the guy, which is what I would predict. Either
Committee back.
A committee back. But as we all know in the NFL, your time will come. We're talking about this year. He was behind Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb. Still 3 games where he was given an opportunity to produce, and when he did, he produced at a high level. So if I can get D'Ernest Johnson on my roster, again, just a good foundation to that championship trophy base that I'm trying to mold out of clay with my arms around Demi Moore. This is something that I like. This is the kind of player that I like. Definitely the running back position. Guys I can get that I don't need to start, but again, I want to have about 8 running backs on my dynasty roster, right? I only expect to play my top 2. That's the goal.
In theory, that's the hope.
In theory, I just want to play my top 2. I want to play Zeke and Alvin Kamara. I want to play JT and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. But it doesn't work out that way on a consistent basis. So I think Dearness Johnson, he showed me enough this year at 25 years old that if given opportunity at any time that he can produce. And I think he put enough on tape this year that he'll go sign somewhere and be like, hey, this kid could help our team win, and we're going to get him some carries. We're going to find ways to get him 10 carries. So the big thing here is, where does he find at least those 10 carries? That's what I'm looking for. So maybe he goes to a situation like Buffalo, right? Maybe he goes to a situation like Arizona, and we saw what James Conner did in Arizona. Or just maybe just goes to a situation where he's going to be the backup, change of pace running back, because that's what he does really well. Is he's a good third down running back. We saw this year, Nick Chubb wasn't really in on any third down packages or 2-minute hurry up offenses for the Cleveland Browns. That's Kareem Hunt's role. When Kareem Hunt went down, which was almost the whole year, it was Dearness Johnson that was in on that role because he does it so well. Where all the Cleveland fans are sitting there screaming, "Where's Nick Chubb? Where's Nick Chubb?" Dearness Johnson played that role really well. So that's what he can offer an NFL team. So for me, if I get Dearness Johnson, I'm staying a 3rd-round pick, but I'm thinking this is more of like, I'm trying to offer somebody like.
You want him to be the throw-in.
I want to be the throw-in. Maybe I'm trying to make a swap here of just like, hey, you have just a small example. Like, I have Tony Jones. He's the backup this week in New Orleans, and you have Alvin Kamara. I'll give you Tony Jones for Dearness Johnson. Like one of those draft picks. Hey, AJ Green had a good half a game that 1 week. I'll give you AJ Green in my 5th for Dearness Johnson. You know what I mean? Hey, I got this bag of chips. I know it's just a crumbs, but your fingers will thank you later. Wash your hands first. So to me, that's the kind of buy that I'm looking at Dearness Johnson for, personally. Myself.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've really liked the way he's looked, obviously, in that offense. I would wonder if there's an opening in like the Jets, just like a similar.
Ooh, him and Michael Carter?
Yeah, him and Michael Carter, something like that in a similar offensive scheme, a similar running scheme anyway. Because I don't think that he could shine in every single system. I think he does really well in Cleveland's system in that zone scheme.
That helps cause?
Absolutely. So, Arizona was another interesting place just because, James Conner and Chase Edmonds are both free agents at the end of the year, so they may be looking for another person. Maybe in Denver, if to back up Javonte Williams, get maybe 10 carries a game off of his load.
I like the Denver pick big time.
If Melvin Gordon leaves. So those are all nice places, I think, for a guy like Dearness Johnson, right off the top of my head, just thinking of it here. I'm
trying to look here, too. Houston would be another good opportunity for him out there. Like, they need a running back. They don't add one in big time. Houston be a really good opportunity for him. Him and Derrick Henry could work together out there in Tennessee, if that could work out. Not Jacksonville. I'm just kind of looking at some running backs. Him and Clyde Edwards-Helaire will look pretty damn good together out there. Las Vegas never wants to throw to Josh Jacobs, so maybe he could be the third down back in Las
Kenyon
Vegas.
Drake there too. Who knows?
Yeah, that guy's older than a fossil that I found in there in my backyard. So I don't know about that one.
Jacobs are like a year apart or something, aren't they?
Yeah, maybe, but maybe not. Maybe him and Saquon Barkley could pair up together.
Yeah, I was thinking that
it'd be a good situation. Him and David Montgomery could be a possible situation. Tampa Bay is always looking for a little something. Him and Alvin Kamara. Mark Ingram, he's not young. He could be my grandfather, and I'm 42.
I think he would pair nicely with Alvin Kamara because I think they do very different
and
things.
They have similar hair.
Yeah, I think New Orleans would excite me. So those are all. Go back to the standings. So we just named like 5 or 6 teams out there that could possibly use a guy like Dearness Johnson.
Let me throw out like a 1% chance theory, but it's possible. It's possible. Is there a chance, because there's no cap hit for the Browns this year, would they consider trading Kareem Hunt somewhere and then just retaining Dearness Johnson?
So he's got $6 million. It's like his salary is about $6 million against the cap, and like you said, no cap hit for trading or cutting Kareem Hunt. So very possible. Another guy on the Browns I was just looking at is Jarvis Landry. He counts about 13 or 14 million against the cap, and he has about 1 million of dead money. So
Jarvis ain't going anywhere. They love him too much in this front. They boast about him every opportunity they get.
Okay.
They might. I think what they'll do there is that they'll restructure him. Possibly
they might restructure something. I'm just saying, for a team that was operating with tons of cap space and now all of a sudden they don't, and they still have some guys they got to sign, there could be a little bit of turnover there at a couple of positions.
I thought about the Kareem thing because he's so talented, and he's such a big part about what the Browns do and their success. It's why the Browns second half honestly didn't do as well as they did, because Kareem is literally a big part of that offense about running.
Sure.
They compliment, and Kareem showed you that he could be a high-end running back. So, I mean, you can put Kareem Hunt on this list. Honestly, like, people still value him, but he's going to be an opportunity to be the main running back somewhere. And when he goes somewhere, he's going to be the guy.
Yeah, I mean, I could see a team, we Buffalo, I think, is the obvious one, just because it would be exciting, it would be fun, and they clearly need one. But, I mean, what's keeping them from saying, hey, we'll give you a 4th-round pick, we'll give you a 3rd-round pick?
I think the Browns would rather have Kareem Hunt.
I don't know. It depends on how they feel about this class. It depends on how they feel about all their holes, and it depends on how they feel about Ernest Johnson.
We'll see.
How much of a drop-off that is.
We'll see. Well, there's a lot coming up. And Deshaun Watson. What if the Browns made a run at Deshaun Watson?
knows?
And they're like, hey, we'll give you Baker Mayfield, we'll give you Kareem Hunt, and we'll give you 2 firsts. And
it could easily
Houston's like, wow, we're getting a number 1 running back, we're getting a former number 1 overall pick, and we're giving 2 firsts.
Is Kareem Hunt an old enough running back to go to Houston? I feel like he's under their age limit for what they are.
They got to be at least
like 28, 29.
We'll throw a little arthritis in that X-ray.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll get it done. So
they're real high on Devontae Freeman right now.
like, we got to get this guy in there.
Guys, you remember Le'Veon Bell in 2017? He was amazing.
Yeah, we'll give you a second for Devontae Freeman. Like, we haven't re-signed him. No, we want you to re-sign him, and then we'll give you a second.
And then we'll trade you.
Done deal. Matt, who's your second guy? Speaking of seconds.
So my second guy is a guy that took, I guess, a while to come around, right, in the NFL. This is the rare 5th-year kind of breakout.
Like Williams?
God, that was a low blow, man. That was a low blow.
Wide receiver 1.
No, Zay Jones.
Yeah, it looked pretty good. And we liked him coming out a lot.
That was the thing.
He had a good rookie season.
And that is what I went back to, right? Because, I mean, he was a guy that I always saw as, listen, he was a high volume guy. He was never going to be a down the field type of threat. He was going to be a chain mover, a guy that could really come alive in the PPR game, right? There was some crazy game at Eastern Carolina where he had like 20 receptions or something ridiculous, right? So, obviously things didn't go great there in Buffalo. I think it started off okay, and then whatever happened with the weird offseason that one year where he was flipping out in a hotel, it kind of never recovered from that in Buffalo. And then he goes over to Oakland, and we always talked about it when Gruden was coaching, how notoriously hard that system was to learn and kind of get up to speed quickly. And I think he just never got an opportunity to really show what he was, and what he is a high volume type of guy. He needs a lot of volume in order to kind of produce from a fantasy level. And it wasn't until week 12 of this year, which was after Gruden was fired, that he finally got 2 receptions in a game this year. So he just he was not getting opportunities at all. But from that point, from week 12 to the end of the season, he was wide receiver 28 on the year. And this is a guy that, I mean, anyone and everyone that drafted this guy has written him off. They've either just dumped him into free agency and somebody else has picked him up off of waivers, or he's still out there on waivers. I mean, because he's just...
You can get him for a sandwich 100%.
100%. And so here he is. This was his 5th year. He's a free agent. My hope is actually that he re-signs there in Las Vegas, because it's a team that he's finally comfortable with. They're finally giving him targets. And it was consistently, since week 12, it was 7 targets, 5 targets, 7 targets, 9 targets, 8 targets, 10 targets. And I don't have the week 18 stuff in front of me because MFL on the site that I'm on now only goes to week 17. But he was consistently getting targets towards the end of the year, and he produced. Mm-hmm. And it's not like he produced high-end numbers, but at wide receiver 3 numbers, you can get him for absolutely nothing right now. Yeah. Like you said, a sandwich. And if he comes back to Las Vegas, or he gets signed somewhere else as a free agent and gets an opportunity just to be like a wide receiver 2 on a team, I think he's a guy that can sit there and produce wide receiver 3 numbers. And like you were talking about with all the depth issues that everyone's having, he could end up in your starting lineup for a stretch. I'm not saying he's going to be a guy that's in your starting lineup every single week, but towards the end of the year, you could have had him, week 15, 12.7 points, week 16, 11 points, week 17, 19 points. They're not like super flashy numbers, but they're not duds.
Dude.
And for what you're paying for a guy like Zay Jones, I think it's probably worth it at this point.
What a year. I mean, what a year. We had Zay Jones at the back half of the year kind of bounced back, right? And again, he had really good take on Eastern Carolina, and then he had that one incident. He had that crazy incident at the hotel room where I don't know what happened, but to say it was crazy is saying lightly, karate kicking windows and stuff. But Zay Jones second half of this year bounces back. Second half of the year, Laquan Treadwell bounces back out of nowhere.
Deontay Foreman
After Achilles year comes back, looks good. Hunter Renfrow finishes as a wide receiver 1.
Yep.
Who would have thought the Las Vegas Raiders going this year that we were like, okay, I was a huge Henry Ruggs fan. I thought he was really talented. We all loved Brian Edwards. One's never going to play in the NFL again. One's invisible, and that the Raiders would be led by Hunter Renfrow and Zay Jones. I talk about money that'd be lost on mybookie.com taking that bet. Sweet baby Aphrodites. I don't know what was going on over there, but what a year. What a year. What a crazy 2021.
And I actually forgot. I did have one metric I wanted to mention as well. He's actually getting some separation, which is something, I never expected like huge separation numbers. But right now he's on the list. He's ninth on the list as far as wide receivers getting separation at almost 2 yards a pop there. So 2 yards per target.
Dude, when you're on the bench that long, you can watch a lot of film up close. Like, you have a lot of opportunity to get better and better your game and see what these guys. And dude, I mean, having a guy like Hunter Renfrow, one of the premier route runners in the league, I mean, that dude is nasty. Nasty at Clemson with those clutch hands. I mean,
those little tiny clutch hands.
I mean, dude, what are you buying for? I mean, what are you buying Hunter Renfrow for? I mean, they got to re-sign him to a decent deal, right? And he's looked fantastic. Hunter Renfrow was a wide receiver 1 this year.
He had like 123 targets or something. I can't remember.
He was winning you championships.
128 targets.
Dude, you put Gronkowski on your roster. You put Laquan Treadwell, Hunter Renfrow, Zay Jones, and Deontay Foreman in the year. You are sweeping those playoffs. Like, whoop, whoop. Garrett, who's your last guy?
Last but not least, similar vein as a Zay Jones, a guy that's a free agent. Things haven't worked out quite as well as you would want. James Washington is a guy that's going to be a free agent this year. And things just never quite took in Pittsburgh. You would see these flashes of incredible touchdown catches or, making these exceptional plays. But they always just had so many talented receivers there. Juju Smith-Schuster was the main guy there for the few years while he was there as well. But then on top of that, then they drafted Claypool and Deontay Johnson. It was just a plethora of young talent. And he just had a hard time really cracking in and becoming one of those top 3 guys. But he did, however, have 5 games with 5 or more targets this season. Now, it's not this like deceptive stat where it's like, 3 of those games he actually had 10. No, these were all either 5 or 6 target games. So they were all still pretty low target value. But he did have 5 games where he had 5+ targets. And in those games, he averaged almost 10 PPR points per game. So when he got the opportunities, when he got the targets, he made something of them. And he just strikes me as a guy that, when given an opportunity, a change of scenery, we've seen it sometimes in these first contracts with players where the place they were drafted just didn't quite fit, but then they go somewhere else and they have a fruitful career. He's one of those guys that I think you could get that with. Once again, he's going to cost you absolutely nothing. I mean, absolutely. We're talking 4th round pick maybe for a guy like James Washington. He's not somebody that's going to be very expensive, but he's got good hands. He's always been good in contested catch situations. He's just never created this crazy separation like some other players have, and I think that's what's hindered him thus far. But when he's gotten the opportunity, he has produced, and I think he could latch on somewhere as a team's wide receiver 2 or their wide receiver 3 and end up being a worthwhile bench stash for you when injuries, COVID, that kind of stuff hits.
Yeah, free agent this year has opportunity to sign somewhere and make some plays. Again, another player, Matt, that we liked his tape a lot when he came out. And if you're looking for the next Zay Jones and that Laquan Treadwell, Garrett just gave him to you.
There you go, James Washington.
I like you said, I've always liked James Washington. I do kind of feel like he's gotten not like a raw deal. I just think there were better players on his team.
They just drafted really well.
Kind of getting opportunities ahead of him. And the thing was, like you said, he flashed, but he never got enough targets for those flashes to become anything more than that.
Right.
So I think if they schemed for him a little bit better, as far as just downfield stuff or get the ball in his hands, because I do think he was a tough runner after the catch as well in college. But you never see him get like those bubble screens or anything like that to kind of get him.
And he's built more like a running back than he is a receiver.
He's built like Deebo Samuel.
Right.
Yeah. He's that
Right.
kind of receiver.
So I think if they used him differently and more creatively wherever he goes next, I think he can definitely have a lot higher value than he does right now. And I drafted him in, I think, 2 or 3 leagues, and I still have him there. He's just been stashed at the bottom of my bench waiting for this opportunity. So I'm with you there. I do think free agency will at least clear up his situation. You know what I mean? Like,
and you'll know real fast if he signs somewhere and it's like, wow, he's like the 5th receiver on this team. Then he's easy cut, didn't cost you anything.
exactly.
That's it, our friends, for the show. Make sure that, we're on YouTube. Check us out there. Hit that like button, subscribe button. If you're watching on YouTube, thanks. And make sure you get to dynastynerds.com. We're running that promo code still for the promo code winter. You get 15% off all our tools and everything. And what are those tools? If you're new to the podcast, you just found us, what do we offer? Maybe you just found our podcast. You don't even know we have a website. Yeah, we have one of the most amazing Dynasty websites literally in the entire world. Tons of free articles out there, but we also have a ton of tools to offer you as well. We offer you the Dynasty GM, which is, in my biased opinion, the number one Dynasty tool in the market. It's why we built it. And what can you get there? Outside of what we are offering you the Nerd Score, which we just showed you that provides better analysts than NFL draft stock. What do you get besides the NFL Film Room? The NFL Film Room, where you go watch all these college players that are coming out. You can watch all their games, all 22 film, by the way, of their games. So you can watch a whole player's game in 5 minutes. So as we scout those players and you say, hey, where do you watch your film? We watch it at dynastynerds.com in the Film Room. But the Dynasty GM is going to give you an opportunity to say, hey, what is Zay Jones going for? What is James Washington going for? We have the trade finder. You put a player in that trade finder, they're going to show you all the trades for that player through Sleeper and MFL.
Real trades
that have happened within the last month, up to every trade that was done from thousands upon thousands of leagues. We have a trade calculator. So if you want to say, hey, am I getting fair value in this trade? If somebody's trying to take advantage of me, maybe you're a newer player and you just want, I don't stand by trade calculators, but they're good tools to give you a little bit of assistance to make sure you're not getting bent over without any lube. And of course, we have the league analyzer. We have the league player share. So if you want to see how many shares you have of a player or who owns a player. But my favorite thing that I use all the time is the league analyzer, where you go in, it's going to show your team. You can either hit select contender or dynasty and where your team stacks up in those leagues. Now, the Dynasty GM can hold hundreds of leagues. So again, if you're on Dynasty Depot or you're in a 30 Dynasty leagues, you can put them all on the Dynasty GM, whether it be FFPC, Sleeper, MFL,
Flea Flicker.
Flea Flicker. We have access. You can put all your leagues in one spot. So if you play on multiple platforms, we give you one opportunity right here.
Don't forget the manual upload too. So there's a quick manual upload as well.
If you're Yahoo or ESPN, you can manually do it.
And again, you're like, hey man, I'm really strong at running back. Who needs a receiver? Who needs a tight end? And you got to go click through every team. We're going to show you in the league analyzer where your strengths are, where your weakness is, all the way up to your draft picks. And from there, it's going to show you all your other league mates as well. Like, oh, look at John Doe over here. He's really strong at running back, really weak at receiver. I'm the opposite. Let's make a deal. And right there, it's going to show you all the players on the roster. You can click it. It takes you right to the trade calculator. What's different about our trade calculator as well, obviously you can build your own trades, but our calculator brings up your leagues instantly. And it would show your actual league mates in that league and all their assets. And you can pull trades right then and there. We have so much to offer at dynastynerds.com and the Dynasty GM. Get there right now. Use that promo code WINTER for 15% off. And maybe you want to use that 15% off and just use the month basis just to see if it's a fit for you. Dive into that film room. Use that calculator. Use that Dynasty GM and make your Dynasty team better today. Check it out, dynastynerds.com. We'll be back next week with some Dynasty sells, the complete opposite. We'll start with the NFC. We're going to jump into that Nerd Herd episode. Another thing you get with a membership is you get a bonus podcast. Where is that important? Well, as we break down our rookies, which is what we made our name for over these last 8 years, we've made our name on breaking down these rookies and ranking them and having a lot of success with that analysis. We break down our rookies now in 2 separate shows. So we'll break down the running backs. Half of them are in this show. The other half are on the paid show. So again, if you want those, you got to be a Nerd Herd member. 15% off with that promo code WINTER. We'll be back next week. Thanks for listening. Let's go win some ships in December of 2022?
2022.
We're almost there.
Adios.